Well, at this point, we're about 7 days into the new year, and I can't remember the last time I featured the legendary tier British light cruiser Minotaur on the channel. I've got what's a pretty good game in the radar configuration of Minotaur. And since we're in the new year, I know New Year's resolutions are a thing. I generally don't make those, but maybe some of you watching this video have made a New Year's resolution. And if there's even a slight chance that one of your resolutions is to get good in World of Warships Legends in the year of our Lord 2026, well, then I have a suggestion for you. Obtain the Minotaur through the Bureau project and play it in this radar configuration. If you can master the radar Minotaur, you can probably get good in all other aspects of the game too, because I feel like this ship is a challenge to play and a rewarding challenge. If you can get it right and you achieve success, there are a few ships that make you feel more accomplished than Radar Minnow. After all, it's a squishy ship. I don't think anybody would ever accuse it of being tanky, in spite of the super heal, which can give you sort of a mulligan if you make a mistake, and we'll see that later on in this battle. But one well-placed shot from an enemy battleship could instantly dev strike you and send you back to port. So if you don't have the smoke screen to provide yourself with mobile on-demand concealment that you can hide in and farm things with your AP slinging guns, well then you have to rely on good positioning in order to protect yourself and still affect the outcome of the battle. And that can be difficult in a light cruiser like this. Your best friend in these kind of situations are probably islands. And it just so happens that we're playing on the Sleeping Giant map, which has one of the most interesting island configurations of any map in the game. It's the Thunderdome surrounding the Alpha Cap, as we like to call it. And we're going to play the entirety of this match inside of the Thunderdome. I also want to pause here as we radar the enemy Brisbane inside of his smoke screen, which we're going to do in a second. We haven't done it yet, but there we go. He's revealed inside of the smoke, so we can farm him. He cannot shoot us in return unless he abandons the smoke screen to spot us, because apparently he's got no assistance on this flank. But this, I want to point out to you, is highly unusual. And when I say highly unusual, you're going to see one of these salvos here against the bow on Brisbane somehow strike the Citadel. I don't know why that is. I think it might be my commander build. I've got Azurlane Neptune at the helm. I'll show you in a second here once we're done with this Brisbane the build, but she's got some skills that affect the efficacy of the AP and maybe somehow improve the pen or the pen angles so we're able to get a fluke Citadel on him while he's bow on. I don't know. But you'll notice that both the Brisbane and I are playing on the flanks where we spawned. This, I think, is unusual. For the latter part of 2025, and maybe even before that, I noticed that a lot of light cruiser players, when they spawn, especially on a flank, like to immediately abandon that flank and sail for the center. And abandoning the flank is not a new phenomenon to World of Warships Legends. It's occurred since day one, but I find it particularly egregious when light cruisers do it, because I think early on in the battle, when you first start, especially when you spawn on a flank, going to the center of the map in the light cruiser is perhaps the worst thing you could possibly do. Why? Well, because if you're in the center of the map, it means that if you're spotted, you're going to be shot from the direction of both flanks. You'll be in a crossfire. You will have sailed yourself into a crossfire if you go into the center at the start of the map. Whereas if you go onto a flank, well, then there's really only one direction that the enemy ships can shoot you from. And so you can better defend yourself by, angling against that direction or hiding behind islands and such and only having to worry about enemies from one part of the map. So if you spawn on a flank, the bottom line is play the flank. Don't abandon it, and if you are going to abandon it, don't sail into the center in your light cruiser. At least not right away, not within the first 5 minutes of the battle. So at this point, we've cleared away the Brisbane, who admirably did try to play his flank, but received no assistance from his team. We did have assistance in the form of this battleship and the destroyer behind us, and all of us now will enter the Alpha Cap, which was just flipped by a red ship. Don't know where it's at, but clearly it's left the cap. and maybe, just maybe, with the radar, once it comes off cooldown, we'll be able to reveal that guy. It's still really early on in the battle, so this is the point where certain moves can really turn the tide and affect the outcome. Radar's about to be off cooldown. We see the torpedoes, courtesy of the sonar, coming through harmlessly. I don't think they're going to strike any of our teammates, and because of the number of torpedoes, we know it's the Vampire 2. We're able to reveal his position with the radar and start getting some damage in on him. However, he is going to sail past this island chain, which is going to protect him from the salvos of our ship. We also take a big hit from somebody on the red team. I don't know exactly who, so we'll deploy one of our super heals. Vampire decides, well, not a great idea to sail into the battleship directly south of the Bravo cap, so he's going to turn around, which puts him back in range of our main battery guns. However, doesn't matter. We get a fist. He goes down to somebody else. It's fine, though. That is what you want to happen, even if you can't secure the kill yourself. And up until this point, the enemy team has lost 2 ships. We've directly had a hand in the sinking of both, taking the Brisbane down ourselves and then directly leading to the demise of the Vampire 2. So we're in good shape. The Bravo cap is clear of any destroyer presence, and our Shimakaze, who spawned with us and played the Alpha flank, is now going to exit the Alpha cap and get into the Bravo. If memory serves me correctly, I think he's going to be successful in his endeavors, and if we can just sort of sit here, concealed behind the islands and lob shells over them at targets like this Preußen, then we're going to be in pretty good shape. Minotaur AP spam is nothing to dismiss. These shells have improved pen angles and all that stuff, and with this Azurlane Neptune build, well, I haven't shown you that, have I? I suppose I'll show you that now, because we're just farming the Preußen. We've got Azurlane Neptune, Andrew the Lip as an inspiration, and Mikawa as another inspiration for our Radar Minotaur build. There might be some better choices. Is that Autobot guy? I can't remember his name, but I feel like the British have a commander, a Transformers one that increases radar duration or something like that. That might be a better choice if you're looking for a pay-to-win build, as they call it. Anyway, Shimakaze is inside of a smokescreen near the Bravo cap. Somehow the Sumner is spotted. Shima's, attacking him with the guns, which is a nice sight to see. And that Prince Ruprecht, who just shot us in the broadside and nearly took us out, well, I don't think he's going to be floating for too much longer between the Shimakaze and whatever else is torpedoing him. But there you see the risk of playing Radar Minnow. If you're spotted and you can be shot at by the battleships, then it's going to be a roll of the dice as to whether they just take most of your HP or all of it. But we've used our super heal. We still have 1 heal left, but we're not going to get the full effect out of it. Even the super heal can't heal all of the Citadel damage that you take, and I'm sure we've been Citadeled a couple of times. Anyway, the Ruprecht goes down. Looks like Shima is more or less safe in that cap. And the red team has lost both of its destroyers between the Vampire and the Sumner. So we're at a distinct advantage. And on top of that, we have more kills than the red team, but they do have more points than us because they were able to secure all the capture circles early on. That's something to keep in mind too, I suppose. Aggression can be of value in World of Warships Legends, certainly, and it can be fun to be aggressive. A lot of players say that they have the most fun in this game while they are aggressive. But one thing to keep in mind is you don't want to be overly aggressive. You don't want to, as a team, take all of the objectives immediately early on in the game and then continue pushing into the enemy team. If you have been paying attention to the minimap throughout the course of this battle, that's essentially what the red team has been doing. They secured the win conditions early on by taking all the objectives, and then promptly decided they were going to throw away their opportunity to win by pushing into the blue team for absolutely no reason. Another common phenomenon in World of Warships Legends, much like light cruisers refusing to play the flanks on which they spawn and sailing to the center for a quick demise. Same thing with teams. getting all the caps early on, and then continuing to push for no gain and no reason, just putting the other team at a disadvantage. But we're happy to take advantage of the enemy team's mistakes. And at this point, there's only 3 ships left alive on the red team. However, one of them, no, 2 of them, are battleships, particularly dangerous ones, a full health Yamato and a not so full health Preussen, who, no matter how much health he has, is still able to take out any of the remaining blue ships. We're all cruisers right now, so, well, we did have a battleship, but I think he just went down. The Aki to the predations of the Preussen. So, even in this kind of scenario, even when we have the Bravo, the Alpha, and are working on the Charlie caps, we're still in a situation where we could easily lose if we as a team make the mistake I was just talking about. We're about to secure all the objectives, which therefore secures the win conditions. So once we do that, there is 0 reason whatsoever to push into the red team. At that point, they're going to need to push into us. And with 2 out of 3 of them being battleships and us still having both of our destroyers alive, they would be at a distinct disadvantage if they did have to push in, especially if we as the cruisers are able to get spotting from the destroyers and remain concealed, which is what we're doing. We're using the Thunderdome island chain to our advantage so that the Preussen can't see us. It's easy enough to lob shells over that island and dial the aim in toward his superstructure, which is probably the only part of that ship we can actually pen. You can see a lot of ricochets, 45 of them to only 24, 26 pens between the full pens and over pens. Not exactly the best ratio you've ever seen, but this AP really does hurt after a while. You think HE spam is bad, but I feel like people always underestimate the pain of the Minotaur AP spam. There's not too much else that's quite like it in the game, to be honest with you. Anyway, I was talking about the fact that we had all of our destroyers left alive. The Shimakaze, who I think rather heroically took the Bravo cap in the face of opposition from the Sumner and the Ruprecht, well, he has sailed a bit too close to the sun. Looks like he flipped Charlie and then promptly sailed into the Worcester, who I assume radared and sunk him. There's the Worcester pushing into the Charlie cap. He's still got the one friendly cruiser to go through, although that cruiser has almost no HP. So I would assume the Worcester is going to be taking him out shortly. Even if that occurs, though, we can still win this game. We've got the majority of the caps. We've overtaken the enemy on points. So long as not all of us sink and we can hold both the Alpha and Bravo caps, we've got the win in the bag. And Lucian, well, he's got torpedoes going for that full HP Yamato, who I don't really know what that Yamato's doing, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure he initially started on the Charlie flank, and now at full HP, he's sailed around to this Alpha flank. So I don't really know what's going on, but he's not full HP anymore. He took a face full of deep water torpedoes, which are possibly the scariest torpedoes in the game, as we get the kill on the Preussen, leaving only the Yamato and the Worcester left. Now, the Worcester at this point, I think, is going to come out on top in his engagement with whatever cruiser is inside Charlie. You can see both of them are right next to each other right now. And with Worcester's ability to HE spam, I don't think that cruiser stands much of a chance. He's going to go down. Worcester is going to be free to flip the Charlie cap, but it's far too little too late. We're 656 to 579 and counting. The enemy has no points income until they finish flipping the Charlie cap. And by the time they do, there's going to be less than 1 minute left to go in this game. So at this point, it's just a matter of, can we get into a position where we won't be spotted at all? The answer to that is yes. But secondly, can we get into a position where we can lob these shells over the island and farm a little bit more damage off the Yamato before all is said and done? And apparently yes, but the Lucian loses spot of Yamato. Well, I guess he doesn't. We'll be able to fire at him now, but there's only 40-some seconds left to go. So this battle is going to end in our glorious victory. This is not a lot of damage. It's only going to be about 126,000 if memory serves me, maybe 127,000. Certainly not a small amount of damage, but all this damage we did, I think, was highly efficacious. And the radaring of the Vampire 2 early on, I think a pretty key point in the swing of this battle. One of the turning points, you could say, turning the tide, perhaps. And that's Radar Minnow, a very powerful ship. If you can put it in the right position where you can protect yourself from being dev struck and also still do damage and provide utility to your team. If you can get that right, then I think Radar Minnow is one of the most rewarding ships to play in World of Warships Legends. There's not too much that's quite like it, aside from the Brisbane, which is sort of a different flavor of Radar Minnow if you play it in that configuration. But yeah, it's a ship I really like. I don't know why I don't play it as often. Maybe for 2026 I'll start playing it a little bit more in the radar configuration, because I think it does lead to some pretty good games, and I hope you enjoyed this one. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.